Hey YouTube, Joeboy here. So, One Piece chapter 1088 is out. If you guys haven't checked out that chapter yet, I suggest that you do so because I will be spoiling you. Now that you have, let's begin. Man guys, this chapter was absolutely incredible. Top tier, an amazing experience. Put this on the short list of greatest chapters I've had the pleasure of covering live. Absolutely. Obviously there are some things that we need to talk about, and I think there's just a little bit of looking at this chapter from two sides, two angles, and kind of viewing it different depending on what actually happened because, you know, it's One Piece, man. It's not clear. But I had a friend make this joke to me, and I think that is absolutely on point. We just read a My Hero Academia chapter. That's what was happening here. GARP is All Might, and Kobe is Deku. And Oda nailed it. GARP points his fingers, you're next. It's interesting to me that in some respects, a lot of what people initially really liked about Luffy and hoped was true of Luffy is really true of Kobe. Kobe is truly a no one. He doesn't have top tier lineage and blood. He's not a freak by nature. But it certainly hasn't held Kobe back. Quite the opposite, in my opinion. It's empowered him. Like, that's the reason why Kobe is the hero now and will become an absolute top tier, if not already, soon. This is just straight up a life lesson, right? But there's a lot of people out there that are incredibly talented, but ultimately talent does lose to hard work. Now, I kind of disagree with Kobe's portrayal, just in the sense that, look, when you actually get into the real world and you get to millions and billions of people, it's talented, hardworking people that ultimately become the best. There's limits to how hard you can actually work to compensate for natural or genetic disadvantages. I was thinking that as I read the chapter, like Kobe's punching the battleship bags, hurting his hands. I'm like, dude, they're gonna have to amputate those things. That is what would really happen. Kobe going on indefinite IR. But obviously this is a fictional story, and I appreciate the moral here. And I definitely enjoyed it as it was portrayed in the story. You know, and the other half of this that I really gravitate to is just be decisive. Self-doubt is our enemy. It's like literally crazy what confidence can do to a person. It literally transforms you. Don't get me wrong, I understand it's not so simple as just be confident, right? Just believe in yourself. It doesn't work that way, but certainly if you are able to attain this mysterious intangible, I think it's life-changing. And again, overall, it's a very complicated topic, but certainly a facet of that is who believes in you? Who are your mentors? Who are your teachers? And how do they encourage you to grow? Kobe just has a very inspiring story. Just straight up, it's inspiring. It starts off, first off, the most important thing is the wanted, the desire. It's crazy to think that the Kobe that we met at the very beginning of the story was literally changed by Luffy. I mean, like, nothing was different about what Kobe desired at that point in the story, but Luffy gave him a shove. You know, I have wondered whether if Luffy's devil fruit isn't part of what does this. I mean, Luffy does this throughout the story, but Kobe is literally the very first example of it. Luffy has the Nika Nika no Mi, the sun god. He makes dreams reality. He frees people. That's thematically what he does. The warrior of liberation, of course. And I kind of wonder if Oda didn't design Kobe's story, even if it's not Luffy's power, design Kobe's story based on this concept. Kobe represents, and his story is perhaps the strongest example of how Luffy breaks chains. I also think that within Kobe, there's a little bit of Oda himself. He's said things, I've read a lot of quotes from Oda over the years, and I just feel like, you know, the motivation behind Kobe having the ability to punch the hand seems like something that Oda experiences. He doesn't want to let people down. A lot of people are counting on him. Our belief in him inspires him. And maybe he even surprises himself from time to time. And like this advice about don't hesitate. You know, like this applies in the real world. Sometimes you're put in situations where you just have to react and you have to trust that good things will come from it. And if they don't, smile knowing that you simply did the best that you could. But in the world of mangaka as a weekly author, I mean, you just don't get time to think everything through, no matter how hard you work. This is a lesson I feel like Oda really believes in. Possibly the single most important one when it comes to what Oda does for work. And it then becomes very fitting for it to be GARP's final lesson. I loved everything about this chapter. The future is now. The future is here. You know, Kobe's rise, A lot of people doubted him, you know, but that was the whole point of his character. I think it's natural for people to say, like, look, who is Kobe? How is he getting this strong, right? You know, and it's not until now that we get those answers. That was amazing. And on the flip side, everything to do with GARP. I mean, Oda, this is another pretty regular theme of the story. His time has passed. It hit me like a truck. I absolutely cried. And this is with the uncertainty as to if the death is final or not. Frankly, it doesn't matter. This to me is escalation. It is the superior version of Luffy and Shanks. Shanks bet his arm on the future, but GARP bet his entire life. And it's also what should have been in Marineford. We've been talking a lot, especially the last chapter review, about the parallels between what is happening now in Marineford. Those parallels are real. But Oda always does this. He uses similar details to create an entirely different story. I truly feel as if Ace didn't really have anything else to strive for. Ace wasn't interested in turning the world upside down and becoming a Joy Boy type figure like Whitebeard hoped that he would come. Ace found what he was looking for. He found family. He found a father. And when he lost that father, it was difficult to continue the journey. And as he said himself, his only regret was that he couldn't see Luffy on his own journey progress. Likely Ace wanted to be there for him. In my opinion, that was the majority of what Ace had left to do. Very soon after Ace joined the Whitebeard Pirates and fully embraced what that meant, everything that he did was about Whitebeard and the Whitebeard Pirates. That was his life. Losing Whitebeard pretty much destroyed it all. And I feel like this is the main difference with Kobe. Yes, GARP was very important to Kobe, but GARP wasn't Kobe's life. GARP didn't represent Kobe's ambitions, his desires, his dreams. So his journey continues. I think it was also very heartbreaking to see the foil or the parallel, the comparison between Kobe and Aokiji, because at one point in time, Aokiji was Kobe. I'm not sure if we're actually supposed to do this, but GARP gives one last piece of advice to his protege, the future of the Marines, Kobe and Grus. But I wonder if this advice was also utilized by his former student, Aokiji, because the final lesson could apply to him as well. Never second guess yourself in the heat of the moment. Look, there's no way that Aokiji is a different person to how he was pre-time skip. He literally says this to Smoker at the end of Punk Hazard, right? So you have to come to terms with who Aokiji was and what he is doing now. It has to be explainable and understandable, even if we don't have an explanation. Doflamingo also says at the end of Punk Hazard that Aokiji looks like somebody who's made a decision, and we've speculated that Aokiji has essentially decided to pursue his own interests, that he has an idea of what he wants to do and is finally doing it. The Frozen character who'd wasted years being indecisive is finally pursuing their dreams, embracing that pirate mentality. So GARP's advice really is something that was applicable to Aokiji for most of the story, something that Aokiji specifically struggled with. And right now, these circumstances, having to fight GARP himself, I think nothing would be harder. This is a situation that is designed to make Aokiji second guess themselves. So it may remain an untold story, something for fans like us to conclude and possibly believe in, but I think that Aokiji took as much from GARP's lesson as Kobe did. But of course, I'm sure that everybody wants to discuss, you know, did Aokiji go all the way? Did Aokiji kill GARP? We're going to start off by arguing that he did, although there's a possibility that he didn't. Really, we just gotta wait for the story to be 100% sure. But Aokiji literally relived their past with Ohara and Jaguar D. Saul. The look on GARP's face, the laugh, it's all the same. And we do know that from the past, Aokiji did not kill Saul. But while it's eerily similar, I think that there's enough differences to really make you doubt that the same thing occurred. Aokiji could get away with sparing Saul because nobody else was there. That is not the case here. There is legions of Blackbeard pirates that are watching this unfold. If GARP simply melts at any point in time, this is not something that can be kept hidden. In the same vein, GARP can't simply disappear without suspicion falling on Aokiji, thus undermining everything that he's done up until this point. And it also feels different because GARP has a mortal wound. One Piece characters, right, you can never be 100% certain, but I really doubt that the Blackbeard Pirates are going to go out of their way in order to try and heal him. But of course, there's probably other things that people would discuss that feel like they're lacking right now, even within a monumental chapter which would necessitate GARP's survival. A lot of them is interactions with other important characters in GARP's life, potentially dragons, certainly Luffy, right? And just, you know, have this be, it feels so sudden, right? And personally, this requires a little bit of theory crafting to get around, but I think that pretty much everything that the community really needs from this moment in the future can be delivered if GARP returns as a zombie. Personally, I'm looking for some payoff, some reason for Moria having visited Blackbeard. That needs to accomplish something, and I'm not sure in which way that Oda can do this without Moria essentially, eventually, joining Blackbeard. So yeah, currently he's a prisoner, but eventually this changes, and long story short, is I expect Moria to come back in the story. If Moria returns, then I think that Moria needs to be stronger than they were before, which necessitates powerful corpses. I think that we're going to have a moment where a lot of the top tiers that we know well in the story are going to return as zombies. This includes Whitebeard, GARP, and others. And I think that this will deliver the closure of the reveal of GARP's death to somebody like Luffy. And at the same time, we know that these corpses still have some autonomy, particularly those like GARP who would have really powerful wills, like we saw with Ryuma and with Zoro, right? Like GARP would come back and he would be dead, but he would also, a little bit of him would remain to say a final goodbye. I think that this could be an incredibly touching moment, just incredible in general, and it's very smart to utilize characters that we already know as future villains in situations like this. I think that it's something that Oda would definitely do, even though people generally don't like Edo Tensei. But I suppose the main reason why I think that GARP could actually be dead has more to do with how I view Oda's mentality right now. Particularly the setup for the final battle. Look, it's just truth, man. Oda is trying to get to the end of the story. There are too many characters that he has to focus on, and it will detract from the story. I think when we saw the end of Wano, I think that Oda realized this. That's just my belief. An arc like Marineford worked really well, despite having an absurd cast of characters, because Oda didn't have to spend that much time on them. All of the Whitebeard pirates, right, they get little cameos, they get little moments, and then it's over. But you just can't do the same with these long established characters. GARP would have needed a chapter or two by himself to fully pay off any potential death. I honestly think that Oda took something that was going to be included in the final war and moved it a little bit upwards so that it could have its own shine. And then with the zombie theory, Oda has the option of having GARP return, but everything that you would need to accomplish with that plot thread can be done very quickly. While GARP can replace a villain that would need to be fleshed out to really have an impact. But of course, that's just the theory. Honestly, guys, it just really comes down to what the Blackbeard Pirates intend for GARP, or what Oda intends for the Blackbeard Pirates. There seems to be two realistic options in my opinion. Either GARP dies, or the Blackbeard Pirates ransom him. And for this second thing, the only caveat is it has to perform some role. Like, it has to accomplish something in the story. It has to be narrative purpose. GARP returning for the sake of it is bad. GARP returning because the circumstances of it change the game and manipulate variables in obscure ways is great. Like, I don't want to get overly critical, right? And I understand that some people simply enjoy when a character that they like is not dead and returns. And I think a prime example of this is Jinbei and Wano, right? We're left in a cliffhanger in Whole Cake Island. Jinbei returns, really nothing has changed. There's no story behind it. It's simply Jinbei's return. Some people do like that. But I personally found it to be some of the weaker writing in Wano. At the very least, a missed opportunity. Because you can have Jinbei return and you can also have it affect the story more. So as an example here with GARP, it was previously established that the reason why Kobe was in a very weird situation and the government and the Marines weren't allowed to go get him back is that he was a member of SWORD. Because he is a member of SWORD, Blackbeard couldn't execute his plan of ransoming Kobe and benefiting really in any way. But the thing that we don't currently know about GARP is whether GARP is SWORD or not. I spent many years arguing that GARP is in SWORD, and the recent chapters have shaken my faith, or encouraged doubt. I kinda don't think that GARP is SWORD anymore. Therefore, you can literally transport back to the conversation between Aokiji and Blackbeard where they were discussing the capture of Kobe. And suddenly an important variable has changed. This would make GARP's survival interesting. Like he sacrificed himself for the future, Kobe as the future, at the same time possibly aided in Blackbeard's agenda. Because now he has what he wants, the hero of the Marines, which he can use as a bargaining chip. If this was actually something important, like something necessary to Blackbeard's plot, GARP is simultaneously saving Kobe and Aokiji. I doubt it was intentional, but narratively, GARP's decision didn't play favorites, because they are all the future of the Marines. So that's pretty much my criteria here. If GARP survives, I just want it to matter. I want it to have an impact on the story and mean something, which I'm absolutely sure that Oda can accomplish if he wants to. And I would suppose that the other thing that I just hope for is that Oda doesn't use GARP in the same way that he used Ace. Like, it can be a similar concept, but I just want it to feel different. Another thing that I'm sure Oda can accomplish, but just like looking at the situation as it is and you know, just thoughts off the top of my head, I mean, it feels likely that if GARP survives that he's just gonna be Ace. And I really hope not. But you can definitely argue that such a thing is fitting, because even though GARP himself believes, like, screw the old people, we've lived our lives, save the young guys. He's scolded for that. That's like the Marine philosophy, right? No, save everybody. Everybody matters. Which would technically include GARP himself. So again, to sort of expound on what I mean here, right? It's just so much more interesting if, rather than go and save GARP, the Marines and Akainu decide not to. There's potential foreshadowing here with how the Marines addressed Blackbeard and Hancock in this chapter, the flashback, on Amazon Lily. It can be interpreted that they didn't care enough to try and save that entire ship full of Marines, and the only one who really cared was Kobe. And you just have to realize that the Marines are different now. Akainu is the leader. What a lot of these characters the Marines think is true and precedent may not be the same. Would Akainu sacrifice people if he thought that it would aid in their war against Blackbeard in some way? Absolutely he would. That is canonically proven. Likewise, he may not see the value in rescuing GARP. So this is what we're talking about. We're talking about narrative consequences. Akainu had a very justifiable excuse to not rescue Kobe, but if GARP is not a member of SWORD, that same excuse may not exist. Therefore, unintended consequences. GARP is a hero. There are many people who love him, including many Marines. He is literally an instructor, and it seems as if everybody has some association with him. We've theorized many times in the past that it's possible there fracture forms within the Marines themselves, and something like this could inspire that. But obviously we are just speculating, and I'm excited to see what actually comes from all of this, and you know, it's just an incredible chapter. So outside of anything else, right, you can just simply enjoy the fact that, or at least I enjoyed the fact that I felt something. Unforgettable chapter. But yeah, as always, I'm curious as to what you guys think, whether you noticed something from the chapter that I might have missed. Just share your thoughts. Remember to check out my book, The Booms, Volume 1 and 2 is out. Links in the description as well as pinned in the comments. And if you guys take your chance to read it, please let other people know what you thought about it. Like the video, subscribe, click the bell to be notified, join the squad, and as always guys, have a wonderful day.